And just a reminder, you're watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada live stream, and I'm Ali Abu Ni'mah. We're grateful to be joined now by Dr. Issam Younis. He's the director of Mezan, a Palestinian human rights organization based in Gaza. He's also the former Commissioner General of the Palestinian Independent Commission for Human Rights, and he comes to us now from Cairo, where he has been displaced with his family. Dr. Issam, welcome to the Electronic Intifada live stream.
Thank you so much, Ali. It's a great honor to be with you. I'm very grateful that you invited me and give me the chance to address the very work that we do on the ground in Gaza and the general context of the situation there.
Thank you. It's our honor. Before we get into some of my questions, I just want to ask you how you and your family and your colleagues at Mezan are doing after more than a year of this genocide.
Well, life is not anymore as used to be with this genocidal war that's executed over Gaza since the 7th of October. Um, our offices, I'll start with the office and Mizan's premises. We have three offices in Gaza, actually, and we have some 29 staff in the overall number of staff. Three offices. The main office is in Gaza City, which has been destroyed severely by attacks in the neighborhood, but still standing. The other two offices in Jabalia refugee camp and Rafah city, the two were destroyed, together with all of our belongings, documents, and other stuff. Some of our stuff are coincidentally were outside Gaza when the 7th of October outbroke, and the other stuff who are in Gaza, they have displaced many times, maybe 10 times, from a corner to a corner, a tent to a tent. And now all of them, except for two, I assume, are in the middle area of Gaza, as well as in the Mawasi area, in a very tough conditions, very difficult times, as you know, of the genocidal war, where bombardments everywhere, attacks everywhere. There are no safe haven in Gaza, accompanied with mm, uh, the deterioration of humanitarian situation due to using food and starvation as a weapon against Gazans. But still, they can do their work to some extent. The priority is the safety of them and their families, and then comes work. To be honest, so we have fieldwork unit, fieldwork staff who document on daily basis violations, which are too much on the plate actually. Uh, and we have lawyers, legal aid unit, who provide free of charge legal aid and who also take the cases and follow detention cases, people who were detained or disappeared during the last year in Gaza. And the rest of the work is also being done there. So the stuff is, most of them are in Gaza. And we have evacuated, me and my family, almost now a year. I'm a cancer survivor, so I need medication. That's part of the wise, and was, in Gaza. Uh, uh, Cancer treatment is a mission impossible in the best case scenario. And now the whole health system has been destroyed by the occupation forces, by Israel. So now we are in Cairo together with the family, and the other staff also are here in Gaza, some staff, and we can do our work from Cairo in coordination with our staff in
Mm.
Gaza.
Well, the conditions are horrible, but their work is so
Very.
important, and I'm so happy to hear they can continue. Um, So let's talk about some of the recent news. Last month, after a long delay of 6 months, the International Criminal Court in The Hague finally issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. In a joint statement with other Palestinian human rights groups, your group, Al Mezan, called this a historic and pivotal a historic and pivotal moment in the battle against Israel's impunity, in which the Palestinian people have been denied justice and subjugated for decades under a genocidal settler colonial apartheid regime. End quote. But on 27th of November, France seems to have announced that Netanyahu enjoys immunity from arrest because Israel is not a member of the ICC, effectively reassuring the Israeli leader that France will not arrest him. This came just a day after the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire was announced, and it appears to be the price France was willing to pay to be included in the monitoring committee for that ceasefire. What's your reaction to the French decision, and how do you see the response of other countries to these arrest warrants? Are you confident that other countries will respect the court's order to arrest Netanyahu and Gallant or any other Israelis who may be indicted by the court?
Well, I hope so. I hope the international legal system, its orders to be respected. Um, it's either or. By the end of the day, it's either the rule of law or the rule of the jungle. And to go back a little bit, the issue of accountability and the ICC. I mean, the court, the ICC, has decided to establish the investigation on March 2021. Since that time until today, no step has been taken. No 1 millimeter have been, you know, uh, taken by the court vis-a-vis victims in that part of the world. It's quite chronic. The key word in Palestine is accountability. Israel has never been accountability, enjoys impunity, and this could give just part of the whys. Why 5 or 6 wars over Gaza? On 2008, 2009, then 2012, then 2014, 2021, and then 2023. And the story did not yet end. I mean, why is this? Because Israel feels accountable above the law as long as many provide legal and political cover to Israel in different manifestations, whether in the Security Council, different UN political bodies, or here and there. In addition, the bilateral engagement with Israel that gives Israel this feeling that they cannot be subjected to law. So it was quite chronic. Imagine someone, his home was destroyed on 29, and then rebuilt it, and has been again destroyed by Israeli warplanes in 2012. And in 2014, a family member was killed, and never been repaired or redressed, or Israel was accountable for its practices, its actions. What to do then? The only way is to utilize this civilized mechanism established by civilized nations, which is mandated to look into such cases. We're talking about violations of the Rome Statute, war crimes against humanity, genocide, and the crime of aggression. Palestinians have utilized up to the maximum the Israeli legal system. In 2014, in the aftermath of that escalation, that war over Gaza, that resulted in the killings of hundreds and destroying of again hundreds of or thousands of housing units and infrastructure. In the aftermath of the war, some 500 complaints have been submitted by human rights organizations to the Israeli military advocate general to investigate those crimes or those claims. we're talking about the very serious cases where whole families have been erased, whole multi-story buildings were destroyed on top of those who were living there, and finally it has resulted in no single criminal investigation has been opened by the military advocate general, and I think it's only three cases that were and a criminal investigation was opened, which I mean were more discipline based cases. For example, a theft of a credit card by a soldier or so,
Yeah.
while war crimes
So,
and crimes of humanity has not been added. So I mean the new or the arrest warrants by the court that was approved and sanctioned by the pre-trial chamber. I think that definitely it's a history and it's a starting point to put an end for accountability and those were criminals who ordered or executed the genocide and war crimes over Gazans and civilians in Gaza to be brought to justice. It's just a starting point. And I think governments under legal obligation to do so, members of the court, those who ratified the Rome Statute, Europe in general, and other countries should respect this order. Now, France, by doing so, I think France now, and before France, statement, for example, made by the German foreign minister, it looks like they are creating, establishing a new international law. If you make a comparison between statements delivered by the France when warrants were issued, arrest warrants issued for President Putin, and how they were keen, encouraging other members to respect those orders. This is on the one hand. On the other hand, how they reacted to the warrants against Gallant and Netanyahu. It's really shocking and cannot be at all justified. And France should be ashamed of this. Here is the double standards. Here is utilizing law for pure utilitarian international law, and it prejudices the internationally accepted standards, human rights, IHL, but also it prejudices dramatically international and regional peace and security
yeah.
of what's going on there.
Well, it's very clear in a way the double standards that these countries, France, even the US, which isn't a member of the court, were so willing to use the court as a political weapon against Putin. But as soon as Israel is charged in this historic decision, they're looking for excuses and for ways to escape from their obligations. But following the announcement of the arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in the occupied Palestinian territories, wrote, "In this rare moment of euphoria, I want to acknowledge the innumerable victims of too many wars in Gaza and the indomitable work of Palestinian human rights organizations, the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, Al-Haq, Al-Mezan, Al-Damir, and Defense for Children International Palestine." Albanese added that without the work of these groups, the hope brought about by the ICC decision would not have come. In mainstream media, Dr. Issam, the work done by Palestinian human rights groups is often ignored or dismissed. Can you talk about the role specifically that Palestinian human rights defenders are playing both in the International Criminal Court, which we were just talking about, and also the International Court of Justice, where, of course, South Africa brought its genocide case against Israel? What role do Palestinian organizations and Palestinian human rights defenders, including, of course, Al-Mizan, play in bringing these cases forward?
Well, it was and still the main issue for the Palestinian human rights organizations. It's item one on our agenda. Back again to what I just said regarding accountability. Accountability is the issue, is the matter for Palestinians. Gaza is an occupied territory before and after Oslo, before and after the unilateral disengagement by Israel in September 2005, and definitely before and after the taking over of Gaza by Hamas. So international law should apply. Civilians in Gaza are protected under international law. However, we have seen this perpetration of very serious grave breaches of the Geneva Conventions, war crimes, crimes against humanity, which now is culminated by genocide. And by the way, the genocide is retroactively being perpetrated against the Palestinians, not only in the Nakba, but I mean in the aftermath of that. And according to the Genocide Convention, genocide could be perpetrated in times of peace as well as in times of war. It's not a matter, I mean, number of those who've been killed or number of houses they were destroyed. It's subjecting whole community to unprecedented conditions and to destroy the community in part or in whole. So accountability is an issue. And Palestinians all the years long, all decades long, have this feeling that justice is in enmity with them. It has never been closer to them, even with just one millimeter. I mean, no one now would claim that she or he did not see what happened in the occupied territories in Jerusalem and West Bank area, see settlements, settlers, terrorism, Gaza being under blockade for 16 years. They have been subjected to wars where children, women have been killed. Society have been destroyed. So accountability is the issue. That was the main concern for us. Again, we utilize the Israeli system. There is no chance to go through the system, to pursue justice through the Israeli legal system. There were many amendments. Amendment number 8 of 2012 of state liability law made it mission impossible for victims, Gazans, to pursue justice through the system. And if you cannot pursue it through and the Israeli system, by the way, is the only system that I know that boycotts the victims. Usually victims in other situations could boycott the system claiming that it's biased, it's not independent. But in case of Israel, it's the system that boycotts the victims. Then where to go? So we deeply involved. We are human rights organizations that are part of our work. The core part of our work is documentation, monitoring. So we did a lot of work. That's our main task. And in 2009, the aftermath of the first war in Gaza, we approached the office of the prosecutor of the ICC at that time. Luis Ocampo was the prosecutor, asking him to open investigation. The state of Palestine also asked him to open investigation of the atrocities, of the crimes that were committed in Palestine. And 2 years later, he just made it public that he cannot open the investigation because the legal status of Palestine is not clear. First, from by the three main bodies, the Security Council of the United Nations, the General Assembly of the United Nations, as well as the General Assembly of the state parties of the ICC. So he concluded that an investigation cannot be opened. Palestine is not a state. So Palestine became a state in later stage of 2012. We have white smoke, where we could have state personality, accede to international instruments. So one of those instruments that was signed by the state of Palestine was the Rome Statute. The court accepted that, so Palestine became a member to that court. So there is here an avenue for victims to pursue justice, to have sort of redress, and to ensure that crimes, who committed the crimes, to be accountable for the crimes. And we engage with the court since that time until today. We have submitted many submissions to the court, different submissions on killings, blockade over Gaza, settlements, and so on. Many submissions. This is in the preliminary investigation period until it was culminated when Fatah Bensouda decided to open investigation, and then went to the pre-trial chamber to approve that and to approve the the jurisdiction of the court over the state of Palestine in West Bank and Gaza, and was decided. Then the investigation was opened at that time. So the court is it's the only the last resort for victims, and finally we have those warrants that are quite important and significant. We hope it will be a starting point because there are only two. There are, I mean, the whole system, the military and the security, they are involved in those crimes of that has been enlisted in the Rome Statute. Now the
Yeah.
ICJ is a different mechanism, and as you know, it's a state-based mechanism of arbitration. State,
Yeah. So just to clarify, the International Criminal Court criminally charges individuals like Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. The International Court of Justice deals with states only, so it doesn't
yes,
accuse or judge individuals, and that's where South Africa very famously is charging the state of Israel with genocide. And in January
yeah,
last year, the court issued provisional measures which say that Israel is plausibly that there is a plausible case that Israel is committing genocide, and Israel has to
genocide.
stop all of the um, actions that could constitute genocide. But in terms of the ICJ, and in terms of in terms of, excuse me, in terms of the work that Al Mezan and other Palestinian human rights groups have been doing in supporting these cases, and that includes gathering documentation and legal materials and affidavits and witness testimonies that you've been doing for years. In October of 2021, Israel declared Al-Haq and the Palestinian Center for Human Rights and Ad-Damir and Defense for Children International, among, I think there was another group as well. And these are all very internationally respected human rights defenders and human rights organizations. But the state of Israel declared to be terrorist organizations. You know, obviously, any declaration, such declaration by Israel is ridiculous and has no validity. What's it like to be in a field where Israel, in fact, as we know, defines any human rights organization, even journalists, even doctors, and I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, as terrorist organizations? What's your reaction to that? And was this because of the work that groups like Al Mizan and Al Haq and others, your colleagues, that are part of the Palestinian human rights community, are doing with the court? What was their motivation in trying to designate groups, human rights groups, as terrorist organizations?
You know, the Israeli government has decided, took a clear-cut decision that when it comes to accountability and pursuing justice in Palestine, there is zero tolerance. So we've been subjected to smear campaigns against Mizan, PCHR, HAC, and other human rights organizations. Some of them has been classified to be, terrorist organizations. While talking about Al-Haq is the oldest, not only Palestinian human rights, but also the oldest Arab human rights, with very respected and history of real work in human rights. And the same with the other organizations. We are not political organizations, but when it comes to accountability, again, there is zero tolerance. That's why the whole strategy was intended or aimed to delegitimize our work, delegitimization. Anti-occupation as anti-Semitism, anti-occupation is terrorism, anti-occupation is, and defunding. Not only we as entities have been attacked and still being attacked, but also, our partners who are governments, the EU and others also have been uh, uh, incited against. So we know this. It's part of how they do it, and as you know, it's how they abuse the whole situation. And again, and anti-occupation is anti-Semitic, not only by Palestinians, but those intellectuals, students, the American universities, or wherever. The ICC, the minute it has decided to launch investigation and then issued warrants, it became an anti-Semite court. Imagine that. So it's there all the time. So it gives us, to be honest, more power, more energy to continue our work, which means that we are on the right side of history. We're doing our professional work. We are not political organizations. We are not affiliated with any political organization. We are just human rights organizations, and enjoys respect from different parties. We're members of different UN systems, as well as other networks in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
But again, as long as accountability is the issue, and Netanyahu is the war criminal, and Gallant is the war criminal, definitely they will do their best to ensure that they will never be brought to justice. And what's going on there, the others should understand it as self-defense. All the time blaming the victim. When Palestinians are
Mm.
being killed, I mean, we are now talking about 44,300 civilians. I mean, Palestinians were killed,
Yeah.
and again, who to blame? They are to be blamed because they have been used as human shields. Imagine this. And Gaza was put under blockade. And I think it's here interesting. The 3 decades of giving peace a chance has resulted in this harvest of sins. Gaza, I mean, Palestinians, on the one hand, which is the unified nation, have been transferred to be uh, into communities. Community of Gaza, isolated from the rest of the occupied territories, but under conditions and under problems created by the occupation, sewage, access, electricity, food, and this stuff. Jerusalem is also isolated from the rest of the occupied territories, drawn with its problems created by the occupation, um, discriminatory laws, Arnona, apartheid, and so on. South of West Bank settlers violence, north of West Bank settlers expansion. So this is the fragmentation of the geography and the demography has been made by Israel. And Gaza was put under blockade, unprecedented since 1967. And the blockade is not only a collective punishment that's outlawed under international law. There is a process of de-development, as if you are taking Gaza and throw it backward, 60 or 70 years back in history, sieging the future of a whole nation. This has been taking place while others watching this, different actors, Europe, the United States, and Palestinians, human rights, rules of international law has been sacrificed with, and that has resulted with this situation. That's why, I mean, we as human rights organizations do the human rights work, and we have very, very, strict measures, professionally speaking. I mean, meeting the victims, eyewitnesses, how to prepare a file, and it's really work that has been done professionally. That's why the court usually take those works and reports by the human rights organizations as credible organizations. And I mean, finally, if they consider it as claims, then let's say it's claims, and it's the court. We
Yeah.
accept the court, accept its mandate, and just to come and investigate those practices. But Israel, as you know, trying on the one hand, crack down those human rights organizations, not only Palestinian but also international organizations on the one hand. On the other hand, it's the only conflict, by the way. I'm talking about the war now over Gaza, the genocidal war on Gaza, that the media is not there, international media. It's being banned by Israel. Karim Khan, the prosecutor of the ICC, was not allowed to enter Gaza. The Francesca Albanese, the special rapporteur, not only her, but also John Dugard and Richard Falk and Michael Link, all of them. I mean, the special rapporteurs in the last 10 or so years also have denied access to Gaza. Investigation commissions established by the United Nations, by the Human Rights Council, were denied access to Gaza. So history did not begin on the 7th. It's before that. And I mean, if they cannot come to Gaza, then our mission is to bring Gaza to their desks there in The Hague,
Mm.
in New York, in Geneva. And finally, we do professional work. Israel knows deeply, inherently, that they perpetrated war crimes, and that's why they do not tolerate any investigation, any human rights work, any criticism of their I mean performance in the occupied territory.
And I can certainly identify with what you're saying because we here at the Electronic Intifada are called all sorts of names. I personally was banned from entering Germany because they say that I'll incite public disorder or anti-Semitism or I don't know what. And just like you say, these attacks, these smears, these lies, whether they come from Israel or from its supporters, they only encourage and motivate us. So I'm glad to hear the same from you. And I'm also can attest to the great care that Mezan and your colleagues always take in terms of documenting any event in Gaza. We always know that the documentation that we will get from Mezan will be extremely high quality and extremely precise. And that's exactly why Israel sees you as such a great danger. So let's talk a little bit about some of these crimes that you're documenting. Just for example, last week, Mezan said that Israeli forces have escalated their deliberate attacks on medical personnel and health facilities in Gaza, with the latest wave of attacks concentrated on Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahiya in the north of Gaza. And on November 21st, an Israeli drone strike, this is just one example, injured 2 pregnant women as they exited Al-Auda Hospital, also in northern Gaza. The next day, an Israeli drone targeted Kamal Adwan Hospital's emergency entrance while medical staff were attending to wounded patients, injuring 4 healthcare workers. And Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya, the director of Kamal Adwan Hospital, was himself seriously injured in an Israeli attack, and his 15-year-old son Ibrahim was killed by a quadcopter. And of course, we know that since the beginning of this genocide, hundreds of medical personnel have been killed. So we know that Israel has no red lines, no respect for any of the what is supposed to be the rules of war. What can you tell us? I know that it's a vast topic, so just in take this how you want to. What can you tell us about the nature and scope of the abuses that you are documenting in Gaza right now? Is it more of what we've seen over the last few decades, which is already horrific, or are we seeing something that is qualitatively different in terms of the scale and nature of the crimes that Israel is committing?
Absolutely. It's qualitatively different from what already had been documented and seen on daily basis. We discover, I don't know, those unbelievable atrocities. First of all, it's part of genocide that's being executed over Palestinians in Gaza. Gaza is 360 square kilometers. On the eve of 7th of October, the density of population was 6,019 person per kilometer. And now, when people were ordered to evacuate, to be displaced many times from the north, the south, and eastern Gaza, they are now concentrated in the middle area as well as in Khan Yunis, Mawasi area, and the density is more than 45,000 in such inhuman situation. It's not adapted for living. It's not living areas. It's or in urban areas. It's more agricultural areas, areas close to the sea with sand hills, but not populated areas. So it lacks the most all services actually. The Mawasi area, and then being targeted, being attacked, and many and we have documented many cases where the Israelis bombarded in the heart of those areas, in the heart of the very, very dense populated area on the globe. The genocide is there and manifested in the, you know, the daily killings of civilians, destruction of property, the wiping out of whole quarterhoods, whole cities. I mean, what's going on in the north at the moment for the last 2 months is ethnically cleansed and destroyed the north, accompanied by, conferences, statements made by the Israeli, some Israeli ministers, Israeli Knesset members, that they will resettle in Gaza, especially in the north, and this is a question. So they are cleaning, wiping out, obliterating the whole area, and some. I mean, the north used to be some 250,000 to 300,000 inhabitants there. Now, the number has been dramatically reduced to some 70,000, living in very difficult conditions, being attacked on daily basis, but also
And when you,
being
Dr.
isolated.
Issam, I'm sorry to interrupt. When you say the north, that there are 70,000, do you include Gaza City in that, or you're talking about the area north of Gaza City?
I'm talking about the northern part of Gaza, which is Jabalia refugee camp, Nazla, Beit Lahiya,
And do
and
you
Beit
have a
Hanun. This
sense,
is
and do you have a sense of Gaza City in general, what the population remaining there is? I know that nobody can be very precise, but from your knowledge, how many people remain north of the so-called Netzarim corridor?
it's around 250,000, because 250 to 300. It's 2 million now are concentrated in the middle area, Nusayrat, mainly Deir al-Balah, and in Khan Yunis. So the rest are in Gaza, and 70,000 in the north area, and in Gaza City some
And
250,000.
and what about Rafah?
Rafah is not anymore. I mean, all people are there, all residents, and displaced to Rafah have been ordered to evacuate, ordered to leave, and the city has been, I mean, completely destroyed. I mean, we receive on daily basis some pictures and videos, shocking videos of I mean, this large scale destruction that has been perpetrated by Israel alongside the borders, what's so-called Philadelphia route through all the way along the borders with Egypt. The whole area has been obliterated. Hundreds, thousands of homes for more than 1 kilometer. Uh, uh, 1 kilometer in width, and then some 14 kilometers. But the whole, I mean, the whole town has been destroyed. Tel Sultan, Saudi the neighborhood, Shabura, and Jenin, all has been almost destroyed.
So
Uh,
that's Rafah, which was one of the biggest. Of course, Gaza is not a big territory, but Rafah was one of the larger cities in Gaza.
yeah.
And we were told before the destruction of Rafah, and Rafah has been largely destroyed and depopulated, as you say, we were told prior to that, Rafah is a red line. We were told that by the United States, by Canada, by European governments who've all been coming to our region to lecture us and teach us about human rights. And many of these countries even fund human rights organizations in Palestine. But without exception, these governments, when I talk about North America, the US, Canada, the European Union, without exception, they are complicit, if not full partners in this
Definitely.
genocide. What I want to ask you is, what do you say to them when you meet representatives of these governments? How do you confront their hypocrisy, the fact that they say every day Rafah is a red line, or ethnic cleansing is, and they don't enforce anything, and they even come back and they say that Netanyahu has immunity? What's
Yeah,
it like to talk to representatives of these governments? It must be
look,
very frustrating.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, all the time we start our talk with shame on you. Our time in Palestine is being counted by the cost of children, a glass of water, and a bill of medicine. And you still not only tolerate what's going on, tolerate genocide that executed over civilians who are protected under international law, but you are directly complicit on the genocide over Gaza. I mean, Gaza's being killed by explosives that are from the United States or other parts, Germany or Canada or others. It's not a secret, and it did not stop so far. Arms shipments are being facilitated to Israel, so they are part of the genocide that's being executed over the second. Uh, uh, mm, Other ways of engaging with Israel. I mean, talking about trade or association agreements with Israel, like the EU, still being enforced, while Article 2 of the agreement that was signed between the EU and Israel, respect to the human rights, is one of the conditions. And you know, even before genocide over Gaza, reports from the different commissions, Goldstone report, Francesca's reports, and others' reports show clearly that human rights is not only not being respected, but it has been, thrown some way, like toilet papers. They deal with the human rights instruments. So we say that it would make clear that, you know, to be honest, it's not first of all, it's not a conflict and it's not a war. It's occupier vis-a-vis occupied. Palestinians are living in such unprecedented situation since 100 years. To survive in 67 when they occupied the rest of what has been left of Palestine, called West Bank and Gaza Strip, as an occupied territory. To understand what's going on, I think it's became clear the war in Gaza is actually unveiling rather than initiating, creating, unveiling this very serious chronic problem of the international world order and the whole international justice system. We're talking about two cultures: superior culture that only produces rationality, human rights, democracy, which is superior. The other one, which I mean, Judeo-Christian culture, if you want, and the other culture, which is inferior, which we belong to, is only produces, ISIS, sort of dehumanized us. So that would give sort of why they tolerate the killings of babies. I'm not talking about children. We documented the case where a baby who is his age is 6 hours and has been injured by one of those bombardments of Israel. I mean, it has been tolerated. No one is doing it. I mean, to put an end for what's going to stop the war, to have a ceasefire, they can easily force Israel to do so. So this, I mean, superior and inferior cultures, and the inferior culture is surplus on humanity, and those who belong to that culture is definitely surplus on the humanity. And now we do have the right to understand it that way. I mean, it's more than a year, it's 14 months. Children, women, and no one would claim that she or he did not see what's going on. It's unprecedented. It's the only crime that's being broadcasted live on TV. So no one would claim that he or she did not see what's going on. Talking about crime of genocide, the mother of the crimes. So they are complicit. They are part of the problem, and I think this uh, uh, would definitely prejudice peace and security in the region and globally speaking. And if we go back to I mean, when the League of Nations was established in 1919, 1920. lasted for 26 years. The those victorious of the war, met in Versailles and have the Charter of the League of the Nations. The main themes, the main goal is to ensure, to maintain peace and security, and second, to settle down conflicts by diplomatic means. It could not stop the invasion of Japan to Manchuria and China, or the bombardment of Ethiopia by Italy, or to stop the Second World War. So it's dissolved. And we have a new victorious in 45, met in San Francisco and have the Charter of the United Nations. Cut and paste, peace and security, and then it could not stop Srebrenica's genocide, genocide in Rwanda, and genocide in Palestine now, and the atrocities in Vietnam, in Algeria, and I think the whole world order should be reconsidered. I mean, those who have a monopoly, 5 countries, could decide on the destiny of countries to send them to hell or to heaven, as simple as that. And on the other hand, countries, governments with very rich civilizations never colonized others. And by the way, those who met in San Francisco, who have drafted the United Nations Charter, were colonizing half of the globe. And they are talking about peace and justice, and they are colonizing at that time half of the globe. So imagine this. So I think it's time. It's a moment of the truth that what's going on is very serious, and I mean the priority now is to stop this, to end the war, to end the ceasefire, and to be clear that Palestinians have the full right, based on the advisory opinion of the ICJ by I mean, for example, which is, I believe, is very significant. The July advisory opinion is really significant. I think it's worth to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, and we just have a couple of minutes, but that's the opinion that was issued in July by the International Court of Justice, which declared that Israel's occupation in itself is illegal, and that was the first time that they declared that, rather than just Israel's actions in the context of the occupation being illegal. The occupation is illegal in itself. Dr. Issam, we clearly have a lot more to talk about, so we would like to invite you back at some point soon, I hope, to cover more of these topics. But it was important to us to highlight the work that Mezan and the other organizations, the prominent Palestinian organizations, are doing, because you have played a really crucial, quiet role behind the scenes, largely, in terms of pushing the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice to take up their responsibilities. And I know that many of the people who are watching feel a little bit cynical sometimes. They say, well, the ICC is not going to result in anything, or the ICJ is not going to result in anything. But as you yourself said, the arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant are historic. They are only the start. There is much more to be done. And we're grateful to you and your colleagues for doing that really important work. So I really want to thank you for joining us today, and hope that we can have you back on another occasion soon.
I'm delighted and honored to be with you, Ali, with the Electronic Intifada. It's a great honor and pleasure. And I hope that I covered the issues that should be covered. There are a lot to talk about, but I fully agree and second what you just said, that the way the road to justice is very, very lengthy, and it cannot be achieved by one blow. It's by points, and the victim should all the time keep on. It's the only choice that he has. He don't. I mean, we don't have the luxury to say yes or no. We are still, even with all what's happening, we're still optimistic, and because we are on the right side of history, and we feel strong, as long as there are others who cares. Definitely, we thought that we share with those governments the basic principles of humanity, to discover that The issue, killings of children is still being debated and negotiable. That many children can be killed. I mean, this is really disgusting, and they should be ashamed of what they are doing. But we are on the right side of history, and we keep on justice for all and human rights for all, and we are human beings who deserve also to enjoy those principles that have been all the time highlighted by civilized nations.
Thank you. That's a perfect way to put it. And we're very grateful for the work you and your colleagues are doing. And we wish safety to all of the staff of Al
Okay.
Mezan and their families. And we hope for an end to this horror very, very soon. Thank you again, Dr. Assam. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.